following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee. It's time for Main Street Preps this week, the Spring Fling Preview Edition, getting you set for all the happenings of athletes, teams, and more in prep sports in Middle Tennessee. Here are your hosts for Main Street Preps this week, Russell Venozzi and Tyler Palmatier.
Welcome back in for another episode. I'm Russell, joined as always by Tyler. And this is it. We have made it to the final week of high school sports in Tennessee. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about what to look for this week at Spring Fling and all that fun stuff. And Tyler, you still in one piece here as we kind of go into the final home stretch of the school year?
Yeah, I'm still in one piece. I'm feeling pretty good. It'll be a fun week. It'll be an action-packed week, and hopefully a dry week, but I think we can get there.
Well, fingers crossed for that. And today we're going to go over some of the questions in our minds ahead of Spring Fling. We're going to preview all the sports, talk about the contenders, the storylines, and what to watch for this last final week here of the high school season. And let's start it out. Tyler, it wouldn't be a Spring Fling preview show if we didn't talk about the weather. And looking at the forecast for this week, it is threatening, at least for a few of the days. I was looking this morning, and for Murfreesboro, there's a 40% chance of rain on Tuesday, an 80% chance on Wednesday, a 60% chance on Thursday. But if you can get through all that, Friday is going to be mostly sunny and 77. So there is a payoff if you can somehow weather the storm, pun intended there.
Yeah. How many times have you covered this where it's gone into the following week after Memorial Day? Or how often does that happen? So do you think they'll
even
get
with rain delays, it seems like they're fine playing at like 11 p.m. on Friday night. Something could spill over into Saturday. Maybe that's happened. It hasn't happened at least in the last few years. But
I guess that would be the move, probably not to go after the holiday. But yeah, I think that's kind of smart why they build in. They try and do it all. I think it seems like they are dead set on getting it Tuesday through Friday. But if you do that, if worse comes to worse, you can knock everything out Saturday. So there's kind of a built-in extra day for them. You know, if you decide you want to stretch this Tuesday through Saturday or Monday through Saturday or whatever, you're kind of really you're really messed up if all of a sudden you have to go that extra day. So, I mean, obviously this isn't us predicting we're going to miss a whole day of Spring Fling, but when you look at right in the middle of the week, really with those rain chances, you wonder if we could go an extra day. But I guess aside from that, if you're an athlete or a coach, you have to deal with the delays, which in tournament baseball can actually help reset some pitching. It kind of provides some interesting dynamics, Russell. I mean, in some situations, I guess rest. You're talking about rest. You know, you play on a really hot day and you get some rest. I mean, that can any sport that can help you.
It can help you. It can also hurt you. If you got your ace pitcher going, and he pitches 2 or 3 innings, and he's got to sit around for 3 or 4 hours, he may not be able to come back. So, yeah, there's all kinds of wrinkles that could be added by the weather. So, just stay tuned for that, and we'll hope for the best. But as far as kind of the action, Tyler, let's go for these next 2 headlines. What you think the biggest surprise will be, and then your biggest lock too. Let's start off with the surprise, though.
Okay, my biggest surprise. I wish I could lift up. I wish I could have kind of a more positive. I was just trying to think of what I think might be the best surprise, because I think what I thought was going to happen this week was I thought for sure we would come in and watch the discus state record fall for the 3rd time in as many weeks. That record stood for almost 40 years. So I was thinking it's still something to watch. I thought maybe the discus record would fall again. I think it could. But I think the biggest surprise is going to be that it won't fall. I think it's a tough thing you got to execute. I think there'll be a lot put on it that I don't think that record will fall again. That's my call for biggest surprise, because I think it would be a big surprise if that happened. And I think we should consider the potential. There's going to be a lot on it. They're not going to be throwing in the same meat, Mency Stiff and Reagan Grimes, who are the 2 going up for it. But I think there will be a lot of build up to that in their minds. And I think maybe we won't see any movement in that record for now. I hope that's not too negative of a take for me. There's
No.
a couple others that I would have had to gone really out on a limb for. I decided to go with this one. I hope I'm wrong.
No, I think that's a strong one. I mean, we talked about it last week with the driving range analogy. You can get out there and boom the golf ball 300 yards, but when you get to the real tee box on the golf course, it doesn't always work that way. So we'll see how. I'm definitely gonna be tuned in, see how that shakes out though. And as far as my surprise, this is kind of a real general thing, so maybe it's a cop-out answer, but the biggest surprise to me is I think we're gonna get to Thursday and Friday, and some of these great teams that we hold in high regard because we cover them, they're just not going to be there. They are not. There's always, every year, there's some team that we think's a favorite that just doesn't make it to the championship because you find out that, hey, these teams from East and West Tennessee are pretty good. And we didn't know much about them going in, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Don't really have a great grasp on a lot of those teams, but I can't tell you who it's going to be, and I probably shouldn't single anybody out and say, hey, these guys are going to lose. But yeah, by Friday, it just seemed like, especially last year, there weren't a whole lot of mid-state teams still standing, and maybe that'll be the case again. I'm not sure, but
a particular
it's tough sledding this time of year.
Any particular sport? Did I miss? Were you saying baseball?
I
soccer,
think
softball,
really any of the team sports. Yeah, any of those team
Mm-hmm.
sports. There's always, you get to the championship game, you're like, man, I thought this team would be there, and they're not. So a little bit of a cop-out answer, but.
Well, that's in complete contrast to my biggest lock, which is I think the 4A soccer state title goes through the mid-state.
Well, there you go.
I think the mid-state's bringing home the soccer title. I impressed with the Williamson County teams that are in. That's just my prediction. It's more of a gut feeling. Like you said, it's really tough to – I think that's what people – it's really hard in high school athletics because you're really not traveling the whole you're not seeing a whole lot of intra-state competition. You're seeing a lot of intra-area competition, so you don't know really what the field looks like, or you have a vague idea. I mean, you can definitely follow it along. I mean, now better than you used to be able to, but still, it's just hard when it's hard to get a feel when you don't see those teams in person a few times and really get a feel for what the talent level is like on the east and west side. So you definitely make a good point there. What do you see as your biggest? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I was probably talking more softball and baseball with my surprise now that I'm thinking about it, because my biggest lock is Page Soccer in Class AA.
Oh, okay.
I think they're gonna win and atone for losing last year in the last 15 seconds. When you look at their schedule and who they've played, I mean they've played CPA, they've played Franklin, they've played Brentwood, they played some of the better teams in East Tennessee when they went out to a tournament there in the early season. Like nobody else in that AA bracket. Really, their strength. I was looking at who they've played, and nobody's can really even hold a candle to the schedule Page has played. So I don't. They're 13-5-5, and I think that's maybe a little deceiving because if they played more of a cupcake schedule, they probably wouldn't have, but maybe 1 or 2 losses. So
yeah, that's a good lock.
We're high on Williamson County soccer right now.
Yeah, well, I think it's been good. I mean, to be fair, I think it's been good this year, and it's usually pretty good, but yeah, I think Page is that's a good pick. I mean, that's a program I've always been impressed with. I think they're coached well, and there's good talent, but there's a lot of passion just for soccer at Page, and that really goes to, Nate Clapp, I think, does an awesome job. He's sort of not only Page's head coach, he's kind of their head hype man too, and sort of walking encyclopedia for all things Page soccer. There's very little he doesn't know if I ever reach out to him. Tell him I'm thinking about coming out to cover a game or a story. He has all the context and the past and the numbers usually pretty well nailed down. So that's pretty cool. It's always good when you have a coach that's able to sort of be everything, which is kind of what those positions have to be. You're kind of your own sports information director. So we'll see, Russell. We'll know shortly.
Yep. And hey, they won a girls' title last fall, so this is the boys' team trying to keep up with the Joneses here.
That's right.
We'll be back with more Spring Fling talk in just a moment.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Nobody covers high school sports quite like Main Street Preps. Wherever your local team and your Main Street is, well, we've got a podcast for you. Whether it's the Sumner County Sports Podcast with Zach Womble, Casey's Take on Sports with Dixon Post and Cheatham County Exchange sports reporter Casey Patrick, the MSP North Podcast with Brady McAtamney and Blaine Keller covering Montgomery and Robertson counties, to Main Street Preps This Week with Russell Venozzi and Tyler Palmatier with a macro view of prep sports in Middle Tennessee. Find the latest prep sports news from your Main Street at mainstreetpreps.com and find these podcasts dropping weekly on these Main Street media social platforms and wherever you get your podcast. Now, back to the host of Main Street Preps This Week. They continue to preview the Spring Fling. Here's Russell and Tyler.
All right, Tyler, let's dig into some baseball and softball talk now. And to kick it off, a team that I got to see last Friday win a sectional over Mount Juliet Centennial. I think that's kind of maybe the Cinderella story there in the Class 4A baseball bracket. You look at what they did last year. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable, the turnaround. 6-21 last year, last place in their district. Started this season 1-5, and now here they are in the state tournament for the first time since 2013. I mean, doesn't get a whole lot better than that as far as a one year kind of turnaround of the program.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't seen what are they? What's their deal? I mean, what's the path to victory for Centennial night in, night out? What do you think about their team? I mean, I guess when you look at teams that sort of have are able to make this turnaround real quick, I would always look to pitching maybe. But
oh yeah, it's the pitching. They in that region tournament they had three guys that all went pretty good distance. You got to start it off with Eli Lamb. He's their ace. Throws well over 90 miles an hour. He's 6'5", and he pretty much shut down Summit in that region semifinal elimination game. Had a perfect game going into the sixth inning. So they throw him out there, and then behind him they've got Ryan Sweeney, who had just a fantastic outing against Mount Juliet. Got it to the sixth inning scoreless, and then Nolan Wells came in to finish it kind of as the closer. So Centennial is a team that seems like, hey, they've got three, bona fide starters and maybe some relievers too that can help out. And man, when you're talking about playing back-to-back days like this, you've got to have that. So Centennial sets up well on the pitching side. Their hitting isn't quite as prolific as some of these other teams. They kind of play some small ball. Don't think they hit a ton of home runs. Don't have those stats in front of me, but it doesn't seem like they hit a ton of home runs. But pitching pays off in the postseason. I think that's probably a big reason Centennial is here. And it seems like they also kind of have a good team dynamic going too. It's one of those teams where they've kind of caught something and caught some energy, and they've just kept it going. So they won a district, a region, and a sectional title, and now they're kind of the underdog here going against Stewart's Creek. It's had a great season in the first round, and they're back for the first time since 2017. But that should be a good game, especially if you got Eli Lamb going out there against Stewart's Creek's ace. I believe Caleb Peterson is probably the guy they'll throw. I mean, sometimes these teams decide, hey, we'll save our best guy for the second game. But if they both go with their best, that should be a great game there.
Yeah, what would you do? Would you start with your ace, or would you? I'd have to go. I think you want to win the first one. I don't think you go out there trying to get to your ace.
Yeah.
I think win the first one and then ask the rest of your staff to shore up whatever you need to. Ask them to hold on and maybe bridge the gap to your next game where you can pull out your ace again.
I think unless you're really confident with your 2 and 3 guys, and you're really confident that the competition maybe isn't up to your level, which in 4A I don't think anybody can say that. Mm-hmm. I think maybe that's the only scenario where you think about not doing it. But otherwise, yeah, you got to win that first game, because if you lose the first, you're in a real hole. But looking across at some other baseball stuff here, Tyler, just in the Davidson-Williamson County region that we're kind of focusing on today. A big omission. There's no CPA in there. Of course, they moved up from
Who would've
division.
thought?
Yeah, division. They moved up from Division II single A to double A, and I think that had an effect on some of their sports at least some of their non-football playing sports. Their their basketball team didn't make after being in a state championship game the year before, and now in the last couple of days, softball, baseball, and soccer all fell either 1 or 2 wins short of getting to the state. So a little bit of a rough time there for CPA making that move up, but I'm sure it won't be long before they're back.
Yeah, with softball, I wonder, they had really never gotten very far in the first place. So that's kind of an interesting situation there. I guess you're to your point, maybe in a D2 single A, that was a team that maybe could have broke through to Spring Fling. But yeah, your point's valid. I mean, in a year moving up, they did sort of take some lumps or some losses, as you would say, when you look across the board. And the baseball situation, not having Langston Patterson and Cade Law really hurt them, I think. I mean, obviously, those are their 2 stars. Probably, you followed them closely. 2 leaders too. So you lose those guys, and that's really tough. But when you look out of that middle region there, I guess you just have to assume, based on how competitive it is, you had to assume that somebody was going to come out and be looking pretty contenderish, and it has turned out to be Lipscomb Academy here, which advanced by beating NBA in that quarterfinal on Saturday. This is Lipscomb's first run to the state semifinal since 2011. Russell, that baseball tradition is awesome there, but it had been kind of sleeping there for a second, and all of a sudden, that athletic program is just having an awesome run. Football winning a state championship. You have a state championship bowler and Jenna Hedgepeth, who's going to Vandy, and then the boys and girls basketball teams really made surprise runs there in D2 as well. This is a baseball team, Russell, we've both seen. That's not always common in our world. We don't always get to see the exact same teams. What impresses you about what Lipscomb does?
Man, the way that they've overcome losing 2 starting pitchers, I think is pretty impressive. Braden Bornstein, Will Dugan, both out for the season with injuries, and they haven't really missed a beat. Willie Walton, man, that kid has stepped up big time. I think he started out as a reliever in the early part of the season just because he was coming off that basketball run, kind of had to build his arm up a little bit. But it seems like every time they throw him out there, he gets a complete game, gives up maybe 1 or 2 runs, and they win. So that's been impressive. And then they have some days where they just tear the cover off the ball too. And I think that happened the other day when you were there and Andrew Davidson hit a couple home runs. But they seem like a team that is pretty well rounded. I will be interested to see how the pitching depth holds up and just see how they hold up against some of the teams that they're going to have to play too, potentially. They're starting out with Knoxville Catholic, and then on the other side, you've got Baylor that's just loaded, just runs through everybody. So got a tough task on their hands, but they've got enough talent to hang with those guys. So should be a fun tournament over there at Wilson Central.
Yeah, really. If they had a full pitching staff, it'd be really interesting. And they probably would tell you they like who they're going to take because, like you said, Willie Walton, that's a guy who he really is a good competitor. I had never seen him pitch until the other day, and I had no idea they had the power they did through that lineup. Andrew Davidson, who almost hit 3 home runs, came very close to a third. Was sort of a mystery to me before that day. I just didn't know a ton about him in my time covering them. But they got real power. So, yeah, it's a good baseball team. Be interesting to see what happens there. Baylor's won 3 in a row. So somebody's got a tall task in knocking them off. What about D2 single A, Russell? You've seen these teams, Grace Christian Academy and Good Pasture this year. Out of the mid-state, those are the 2 our area's favorites. And what do you think? Is this the tournament favorite at this point?
Yeah, I think for now they have to be. They beat Good Pasture a couple weeks ago in pretty convincing fashion for the Middle Region title, and man, the way they hit the ball is pretty unreal. Now they won't be playing in their home stadium, so that could be a little bit of a factor. But whoever they're playing is also playing at that small field, so like they have theoretically the same advantage to hit home runs and stuff. But it was kind of interesting. One of their players was telling me that teams show up to that Clyde Pewitt Field there in Leapers Fork, and they see the short fences all around, and they get excited, and everybody gets up there and turns it into like a home run contest. And sometimes when you do that and you're swinging for the fences, you strike out, or it doesn't go your way. Whereas the Grace Christian players are used to that. They're focusing on hitting line drives, and if it goes out, great. So they've kind of, I think, gotten some teams that way. But anyways, I think Grace Christian's probably got to be the favorite, but Good Pasture, you can't count them out. They've also had a great season. They've only lost 3 or 4 games all year, and they have a lineup that can really hit the ball, and a couple of pitchers that compete well. So I would not be shocked if those two teams met for the title. And if they did, I think that would be a great matchup there.
Yeah, it should be interesting, man. When we come back, we're going to wrap us all up. We're going to hit softball, soccer, track. We're going to get tennis in. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Well, Tyler, if there's any doubt that we could fill up 30 minutes with just the two of us talking, we've answered the bell there today. So we're gonna have to do a speed round on these last 4 sports, starting with softball. Take it away.
Yeah, let's take a look at softball. I had said last week that Wilson Central was what I was looking forward to most on that side, without realizing that they could run into another area team of ours. So I don't want anybody to think I'm picking favorites here, but I think it's a really interesting first round matchup here because we get Summit at 20-12 against Wilson Central, 37-10 right out of the gate. That's really interesting for those of us who have followed those teams one way or another throughout the year. I was at Summit the night they were trying to play Nolensville in a district final, but I was kind of caught in a delay, and that ended up getting pushed the next game. And Summit had a pretty tough route going through Nolensville and ultimately Centennial and Beach. Spartans are back for the second year in a row, and they're going to get right out of the gate Wilson Central and Kylie Pitzer, the University of Louisiana signee, who's really been one of the area's best pitchers. I don't quite know what to make of the 4A softball bracket, Russell, because I've seen a few games, but I haven't seen enough of the contenders. In fact, I think in that bracket, I don't know. I've seen some of no, I haven't seen any of them. I've seen some in D2A, but I'm just not familiar with what's out there besides a little bit of Summit, what's expected in that bracket. But man, I think the large class softball tournament is one of the best sporting events every year, any sport during the high school season. I think softball is an awesome sport to get to tournament to, and because of the speed at which it moves.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, if you're anywhere in the Nashville area, you're probably a fan of this tournament because you got Clarksville, Stewart's Creek, Springfield, Coffee County all in there. Should be a lot of fun. Springfield, talking about pitchers and pitching strength in softball, and we'll just touch on this real quickly. But if you have one good pitcher and you can ride that pitcher all the way to the state tournament and all the way to the finals, like that's such a huge advantage. Springfield has had that for several years now with Bree Mondi. I was the Robertson County reporter back in 2019 when they got to the state tournament. Her freshman year, she pitched just about every inning. It was really impressive. Now she's a senior. She's got them back there. I think Springfield's certainly a team to watch in that bracket. But DCA's got a pitcher like that too. That's a freshman. Bailey Shepard, you saw her throw 14 innings last Wednesday to get to the state tournament. So they're going to have to show down with Columbia Academy at some point. That's going to be tough. Columbia Academy won the championship last year. They've already beaten DCA twice this year, but if you can get your pitcher a little bit of rest overnight and come back the next day, you never know. You could have a good game there.
Bailey Shepard's a player now. She's going to be really good. I mean, she's already pretty good. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Having to that dynamic of softball pitchers having to throw so much. It kind of hurt CPA last week. Emma Price had to throw 2 games back to back and the first game went to extras. So, you got to keep these, if that's your situation, really want to keep these games to 7 innings. Don't want to go 9 innings out in 90-degree heat like she did, because that sort of opens yourself up to a situation where you could really get teed off on maybe in your next one. So I don't know. I think softball's got a lot of great drama. That's going to be a fun championship regardless. DCA is back for the first time in a while. Will be interesting to see what they do. Let's get to soccer real quick, Russell. One thing I'm interested in is Brentwood soccer's fate. I did a story about their coach, Mike Purcell, earlier this year. He's 70 years old. He seems like a guy who could retire at any moment. He's been around for a long time. This is his 20th season. Bruins are 19-2-1, have an impressive win over Station Camp to get here. I just kind of wonder, are things lining up for maybe a Brentwood run? That Williamson County region kind of won out over its north counterparts up in with Station Camp falling to Brentwood, and with Franklin beating Hendersonville. So I'm interested to see what happens there. You mentioned Page. Russell, Valor College Prep is another team you've seen in D2 single A there. Or I'm sorry.
Class 2A.
Class 2A. Trying to keep all my numbers and letters straight here. That's a team you and I have both seen. Interesting situation over there at Valor with them being back.
Oh, yeah. Right there in South Nashville, in the heart of kind of soccer interest territory in Nashville. And, they've got a good program. So we'll see how they do. But let's wrap up real quickly here with track and field and tennis. Tyler, I know you've got some track storylines you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, Barry on Brown, Pearl Cone sprinter, also a Kentucky football commitment or signee, I should say. He's close to the state. He can touch the state record, but he's got one of the slower 100-meter dash qualifying times coming in at 11:16. That's 5th best in Class A. It's 200 times more competitive, but that's not a huge. Without knowing why that time was produced, those times can sometimes change. You're really peaking to the state meet. You just have to qualify to get in. You don't have to run a record time, so that's not a huge deal. That'll be interesting to see. Of course, Mincy Stiff, Reagan Grimes will be watching that. Don't miss the 100 in the girls 4A. All the top 3, Whisper Thomas, Nyla Mackey, Kaylin Thomas, all 3 from the mid-states. That'll be fun. Tennis. Russell, last year, we didn't have any girls champions. This year in the field, we've got Summertown, Watertown, USN, Brentwood Academy, Innsworth, all in different classes. So could get a chance to have a champion there. That'll be very interesting to see.
Especially that Innsworth team. They've got several really strong tennis players. So keep an eye on
Merrill
that,
Hyde could
sure.
repeat in the boys. Ravenwood's back in the boys, so maybe a couple repeat champions. We'll find out soon enough, man.
We will. That's going to do it for us today, but this is just the start of this week. Stay tuned to Main Street Preps all week. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage of this thing from all across the region. So hop in now as a subscriber, $3.99 a month, gets you in $25 a year. You just want to go ahead and get that over with. But we appreciate everybody, and it's been a fun school year. We're looking forward to finishing strong this week with Spring Fling. We'll talk to you next week right here on Main Street Preps this week.